every hair on my body just stand up. And I thought I was going into, like shock part of dying, because everything was like lit up and my eyes were big and the hair was like straight up, like I was standing in a lightning rod. And I turned around to see if there was somebody behind me, and the whole beach was covered with angels and all these spirits. And I just fell, I could cry now, but I fell down to the ground in the sand, and I just laid there for I don't know how long and just sobbed and just cried.
Guy here. My epic guest today is Rob Wergin, and if ever there's a podcast I'm excited that you are watching, it's this one. Honestly, I loved it. It was phenomenal. Rob is such a great guy. I had such a great connection with him, and his story is mind-blowing. His work is mind-blowing, and for me, what this podcast is what podcasting is all about, is to be in this mindset of wonder and awe and connection. What can I say? I'm a raving fan of Rob now, and I encourage you to just drop in and listen to the whole episode, because there is so much wisdom in this. And what can I say? I look like I've just come out of a 5-day retreat, which I have. We just finished up, and again, my heart is just blown wide open. And I always say at these retreats, there were 33 of us in total, spending 5 days together, and I get to see the best of humanity, that people are ready to change, they want to change, and they're ready to let go of the past or whatever they feel is holding them back. Because you're never going to get the answers in the mind, right? It's always within the body, within the energy field around us and within us. And we have that power, we have that capability. We just need to be shown the way by others that have led the way before us as well. If you're interested in joining us for a retreat in 2025, there'll be a link below in the show notes. We'll be hitting Bali. We are going to hit Europe towards the end of 2025 as well. And of course, we're in Australia in January, which is almost half full already. With all that being said, let me know if you enjoy this podcast with Rob. Let me know where you are in the world, and hopefully I will get to meet you someday somewhere in person. I had quite a few hugs. I always say, if you do meet me, come up and give me a hug. I had quite a few hugs from the retreat, from people that have been listening to the podcast, which is beautiful. Enjoy. Much love from me, and I'll catch you soon. Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I just love the conversation. I mean, we've been chatting off air for 10 minutes already, and it's amazing how synchronistic things open up, which I always get excited about, and then meeting people like yourself. And I always start the podcast this way. It's a great way to start it. But let's say you are on an aeroplane and you sit next to a stranger and they ask you what you did for a living. How would you reply?
Well, it depends on who it is sitting next to me. I kind of like check them out first. But I've had a lot of fun sitting next to doctors that specialize in cancer or, chronic pain or something. And I love to get open a dialogue with them, because we have some interesting conversation. I tell people that I'm a divine conduit, and that, since people don't really understand what that is, they'll either say, "Oh," and then put their headphones on, or they'll say, "What is that?" And then I'll explain it to them, and then it's really kind of interesting. I used to use the word healer all the time, but I found that healer is a very misunderstood word, and people have a lot of experiences, a lot of opinions, a lot of judgments around healers, and they've had a healer experience. And so I haven't used that word for, 10, 15 years. So it's always interesting to engage with somebody and try to explain to them what I do in a few minutes.
No,
it's
absolutely.
Not that easy. But we can
totally.
do it
And there's two words I'd love to unpack, actually, just was coming in, is divine and heal. And what do those words mean to you?
Well, I use the word divine because I'm not religious, and I'm spiritually religious, but I'm not religious. And I don't want somebody not to come to me because I use a word that might put them off. And pretty much everybody understands or has a feeling about divine. And they may not, everybody has their own definition to it, but it's commonly held in high a much higher energy than healer or, you know, medium or stuff like that. So divine to me means God. It means the one, the universe, whatever label somebody wants to put on it is fine with me. It's the ultimate energy. It's all unconditional love. It's unconditional compassion. It's unconditional bliss. And there's nothing more powerful or stronger than that. And for whatever reason, I get to connect directly with that energy. So I don't have like, you know, in between or guides or people. I have a lot of beings that hold the space for me, but it's like plugging into a 100,000 volt, light socket when I start doing my work. And I've got a lot of help in the spirit world helping me, but I'm going direct. I'm not going through somebody else. And I don't go into a trance. I want to know exactly what's going on. I want to see what's going on. I want to be part of the process in every way. And that's how I've learned over the years is I asked a lot of questions and witnessed a lot of things. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Or, stuff like that. So I don't know if that helps you, but transformation is a word I use a lot because it's the energy gives you the opportunity to have transformation in your health or transformation in your life or transformation in all aspects of you. And I like words like that because people can kind of fill in their own blanks and not, it's hard to explain a lot of this. But divine and transformation are pretty universally understood or at least accepted in a more positive way.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel through my journey, I had the good fortune of, well, looking back at the time, I was actually terrified, but experiencing
Me too.
an amount of energy go through my body that it was, I've been reading a lot of books at the time, and I was getting it in the analytical mind, but I still didn't get it because it wasn't an embodiment. And it wasn't until I felt that energy go, oh my God, that's what they mean. That's what it is. And then trying to translate that to someone else is still very challenging to this day. So I understand. And for you, did that divine energy, was that part of you your entire life? Would it come on at will from as far as you remember? Or was it something that you developed?
Well, yes and yes. I, I was born with it, but I, as a little boy, just thought that it was normal, And my parents were very religious and German Lutherans, so they're very religious. And I was taught to pray. I was taught to ask God. I was brought up in a very religious, atmosphere. And so when I started with animals would show up in my path and they'd be hurt or whatever. And I would just look up and go, God, would you please help this rabbit? Like I was taught, right? Please, God, would you help this rabbit? And then the rabbit would look at me or whatever it was, and I would put my hand on it and I'd feel like this massive amount of energy, like shake me and shake the animal. And then the animal would be fine. I'd say, thank you, God,
Wow.
like no big deal. And, I could see spirits. I was talking to my grandfather, my mom's grandfather and all these things. And my parents really misunderstood me because they thought I was nuts. And, and they also thought that there was something wrong with me, like I was possessed. And they became very frightened by me. And they actually had a Lutheran type exorcism done on me when I was about 7 years old. And, honestly, I went through a lot of therapy after that. But as I look back at it, it was one of the greatest gifts they could have given me because, they could have taken me out on the road and made me this boy wonder, and I'd probably be drunken and dead by now. And instead, they shut me down. So I was able to experience not normal. My life has been crazy, but I was able to have lots of human experiences and without any, I was shut down.
Nothing.
I didn't have any sight. I had nothing. I just like gone.
Wow.
And I was a really successful business guy, and I would always get all these thoughts, and I used to say I'm really smart. And now I realize that I was being guided, even though I thought I was shut down. So it was from like age 7 until my 50s that I was materialistic. I considered myself an atheist. I didn't like spirituality. I didn't like religion. I just thought that was all a bunch of junk. It was all about money and power for me. And then I had all my money stolen from me. And I went through, when I was like in my 50s, I was going to retire and I had everything stolen and betrayed.
Oh,
I was betrayed and everything stolen all at once. And again, that was a gift, right? Because I wouldn't be talking to you right now if that hadn't happened. And I wouldn't be talking to you right now if my parents hadn't done what they did, right? So I look at my whole life as being a series of gifts that they didn't seem like it at the time, right? But now it's like, holy cow, I couldn't have done this on my own if I would have tried, right? So I was 51 and all this stuff happened and I turned to like painkillers and alcohol to try to numb myself, and I just spiraled into a really dark space until in February 2003 I
oh my
tried to kill
God.
myself. And well, again, I don't recommend it again, but I wouldn't be here right now had I not done that, right? So that experience took me to a place where in this place of being kind of drugged, I started to get really angry at God, and I started screaming at this God, even though I swore I was an atheist, and yelling at God, and why'd you do this to me, and blah 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 blah, and said something really smart like, if you have anything to say to me, you really better say it now because I've got a few seconds left. you know, and I heard this loud booming voice, and I can't swear that I heard it. I can't prove it. I just know that I heard something that said, go to Sedona, remember what you did as a boy. And I'm like, what? Why would I go to Sedona? And what are you talking about? And so we had this like, I don't know, I have no idea. We had this conversation. And finally they just said, just go home and pack your bags and go to Sedona. And you're going to do what you did as a child, except with people. I had no clue what they were talking about. I had completely blocked. So I turned around. I was on the beach in Southern California. I turned around to go home, and I felt every hair on my body just stand up. And I thought I thought I was going into, like the shock part of dying because everything was like lit up and my eyes were big and the hair was like straight up like I was standing in a lightning rod. And I turned around to see if there was somebody behind me, and the whole beach was covered with angels
Wow.
and all these spirits. And I just fell. I could cry now, but I fell down to the ground in the sand, and I just laid there for I don't know how long and just sobbed and just cried. And obviously didn't die, and obviously I didn't even have any effects from all the drugs I took. And I finally got up and went back to my house and Googled Sedona and literally got in my car and drove from LA, which is where I was, over to Sedona. I had about $200 left. My car was being chased for repossession. I was at the end of the end, and I showed up in Sedona, and all this magical stuff happened that we could talk about for hours. And things kept happening, kept happening, kept happening, kept happening. And I'm like, what is going on? And a big part of me thought I had lost my mind, because I'd done a lot of painkillers and alcohol, and I was not in a good mental state. And I thought I must be just crazy. And these beings were coming to me, and all these things were happening. And I was like, I couldn't call anybody because everybody already thought I was crazy. So I was there for a couple of weeks, met a couple of people from Australia, met people from all over the world, came back to Southern California, and literally people started knocking on my door and asking for healing. And that's a whole nother story, but I had no idea. And so people would come and I'd say, okay, why don't you come in my house? And I'd put my hands on them and I'd look up and go, okay, you got me into this. I need help. And all this crazy stuff started happening. And all my clairvoyance and all my stuff just opened up again. And I could see and I could feel all this energy and all these miracles were happening. And I thought I was crazy. I really did. And nobody was paying me. I was destitute. I had no money. I was begging for food, literally. And and I was a multimillionaire like a couple of years before that. And now I'm like clipping coupons and eating oatmeal, you know. And finally, one day I heard this booming voice say, "It's time for you to move to Sedona." I'm like, "That's really funny. How am I going to do that? I don't have any money. I just filed bankruptcy. You know, I'm broke. They're going to take my car. I'm a mess." And they said, "Don't worry about it." And all this stuff happened, just opened up in Sedona. That was in 2003. And people just started coming to me. And, you know, for the last 20 plus years, you know, like I've done close to 400,000 healings. And, and every time I do a healing, it's as exciting to me as it was the first time. And it's because I'm involved. I'm not in a trance. I'm fully aware. I see, I have a communication with the beings that are working with me, and I have a communication with a person's soul, and it's really interesting, right? So it's like everybody's different. Nobody's the same. Everybody's unique. I've worked on identical twins that were completely different, right? And I've learned so much by just experience and asking questions like, why are they doing that? Why are you working on their liver? You know, they're having a headache. Why are you why do you tell me to put my hands on their liver when they've got a migraine? And I would learn all about these different pathways and a lot of ancient Chinese
Right.
medicine and shamanism and all these things. And I've never been trained. I've just had a lot of experience and and been really fortunate to meet some really cool people like Kelly, who, you know, asked me to be in her movie, and all my friends said, "Don't. You don't know who this person is. She could
Is
paint
that
you as
right?
a complete fool." And yeah, I mean, some of my healer friends, I could mention their names, and you'd be like, "Are you serious?" They're like, "Don't do it. You don't know these people." And I'm like, "I don't. I feel good about this. My guides are telling me to do it, and I was the first person they filmed, and that was lots of years ago. And unfortunately, they cut the best stuff out of the movie because there was some stuff that happened that they filmed that they thought the people would think was
Wow.
fake. Like, you know, it was so powerful. They're like, people aren't going to believe what just happened, so we're not going to put it in a movie. I'm like, and I was angry at first, and I thought, you know what? I'm glad they didn't, because I would have been overrun with, you know, people would have been like coming after me. So it's all perfect. Everything's perfect, and I'm here. I am today, and I'm really grateful, and I'm
Wow,
happy
that's
to
mind
be here.
blowing. I had no idea of, honestly, that's been your journey. And just for the listeners, that's Kelly Noonan Goes and the Heal documentary as well. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. Did you have to go through like that huge? It's like everything was stripped away from you. Was that the only way you were going to get there? Do you think after? And
Yeah, I know
okay,
so. I mean, because I, and here's what I know. This is what I tell people all the time is I had a really difficult life. I mean, just that alone was just a piece of it. I mean, I've had the most, and I'm not complaining because I had a really hard life, and it was my training. I look at it as my training. You know, anybody can come see me, and I have absolute compassion for everybody because I've probably been there. And that was my training. My training was how people feel when they have a cancer diagnosis or a Crohn's thing or depression or a suicide attempt or a divorce or whatever it is. I know what that feels like. And so when I work with somebody, they know that I know, right? And so that has been very beneficial for me and for them because I'm not some big shot that's like has a lot of ego and crap because
yeah.
I've been there. And so I know that had to go through that to do what I do now, to at least to do a better job of what I do because I don't have any judgment. I'm like, yeah, I know what that feels like, right?
Uh,
And so,
totally,
does that make sense?
totally. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. F-
and I still go through it. I mean, people around me they like, we can't believe this shit. Sorry that you go through, And I'm like, you know what? It keeps me humble. If my life was perfect and I like could float around and sing Kumbaya and had millions of dollars and all that stuff, I'd be a jerk. But I feel the same thing everybody else feels. I go through the same thing everybody else goes through. And in fact, I go through it probably at 100x what everybody else goes through it. So I can be really knowing what it feels like.
Wow.
So that's, and I'm not complaining about anything. I wouldn't change a thing. I just know that, my life is the way it is for a real specific reason, and that's to keep me humble and to keep me engaged and to just see me excited about every little thing that happens.
That's incredible. So right at the start, I asked you about the words divine and then heal. And I'm curious you must have seen everything. Like if you were, like everything.
Everything.
And through all of what you've witnessed and experienced and working with people, what does the word heal mean to you? Why, like, how is it that, and the energetic component and the shifting of whatever it is that you're doing can help people resolve the physical expression of a disease or whatever that might be in their body at that time?
So this is what I know, and I try to keep things really simple. I'm not a metaphysical using big words guy, right? I know that what I do is, let's say I was going to work on you right now. I know that as soon as we had an agreement, whether a soul agreement or a verbal agreement, whatever agreement that you agreed to let me work on you and I agreed to work with you, you would be completely surrounded by the perfect vibration and the perfect energy that would create any kind of healing you wanted in your body instantly. And at that point, it's up to you. It's your free will, it's your choice, it's your belief, it's your faith. So I can bring everything you could possibly need to you, and you could say no. Or you could say, I'll try a little bit. Or you could say, let's do this, and in everything in between, because everything is about choice and about free will. And so I don't know if that makes sense to you, but whatever my body does is it encapsulates you in this amazing perfect energy. And then and it's what your soul has asked for. It's what, everything's asked for. And at the end of the deal, it's up to you. And, a lot of people want to negotiate. A lot of people want to just try a little. A lot of people want to do this, but not that. And I say, you know what? And a lot of people come to me and they have a very clear definition of what they think is wrong with them. So, for example, somebody tells you you have something, right? I'm not even going to mention anything. You have X. And so you start looking for somebody that can help you get rid of X. Well, X is that big. And if you focus on X, you're limiting yourself, you're limiting your opportunity to heal because all you're focused on is one little thing.
Yeah,
Does that make
absolutely.
sense to you? And what's really important is that little thing is the manifestation of a whole lot of other stuff. Because we're working on every one of your past lives. We're working on your generational stuff that's been passed on from whenever. We're working on your generational stuff going forward. And all of that is like a bad weed growing, and all of a sudden that thing pops out of the ground and you're like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. And you're focused on the very end result, the manifestation of what's been told that you have. And if you focus on that, you're not going to get rid of it. So I say to people, let everything go. You don't really understand. What's really important is that this has been lifetimes of whatever. And we don't need to know who did it or why they did it or none of that stuff matters. All that really matters is that you decide right now that you're complete with it and you're willing to let it go. And you know that God will give you whatever you ask for because it's unconditional love, but you have free will. So you got to make the choice. And don't choose to just focus on your left shoulder because somebody told you needed a shoulder replacement. It's much greater than that. Don't limit your possibilities to one little thing. Just open yourself up. I don't know if that answers your.
Yes, in many ways, really. The thing that fascinates me the most is that do you feel that there's at an unconscious level, there's parts of us that don't want to heal because maybe our identity, we're getting something from it. Because through experience, I've seen many people say, "Oh, I want this fixed. I just want it out. I just want it done." But ultimately, they're getting something from it by having it.
They're getting some drugs. They're getting some love they didn't have as a child. They're getting attention from their spouse. I mean, I see lots of mid 40s to 50s women who have sudden onset of some disease, a migraine or Crohn's or Lyme or whatever it is, right? And they go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I don't know what's causing that, but they'll give them drugs anyway, right? At least here in the US. And when I work with them, I can see that it's their need for attention because they've spent their whole life taking care of their husband or their children or their job, and all of a sudden they're in midlife and they feel like they've done everything for everybody else, but they haven't gotten it back. So they create something to get it back. And those people can be difficult to get rid of, but once they feel the love again, which is what's happening with the energy, we're filling people up with love for themselves and love from God. That's really seductive, right? And once you get that feeling back, you're like, okay, I got this. But a lot of people create stuff just because, yeah, like you said, they're going to get something they need from it, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. And I'm curious as well while we're just on this part of the conversation, because I've had many conversations on here, and a lot of the conversation has been our soul chooses different challenges and aspects as we come in here to learn the lessons from them that help us
I'm glad you're going there. Keep
that
going.
help us grow. You even said you were grateful for the lessons that you've had, even as challenging as they are. But I'm always curious around this element because what if that is to be true? Um, and I don't have the answer, but if that is to be true, then we want to heal a certain illness or disease, but we haven't got the lesson that from it.
Yes, you
You
have.
have. Please,
But
yeah.
let me tell you the biggest secret that I was told 18 years ago about lessons. You're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. I was doing a live session somewhere, a couple hundred people in a group, and that specific night I said, there's a lot of beings here that are willing to answer any question you want. Raise your hand, ask any question. There was a lady who was quite irritated that pretty much said exactly what you said. When am I going to learn my lesson? I've had this and I've had that and I can't get rid of it. And I don't know what's going on. Something like that. And at the time, I was working with some real smart aleck guides, and I could hear them kind of chuckling in the background. So I knew it was going to be a fun answer. And this is what they said to me. You human beings have made two words into one. It's less on. And the whole purpose of being a human is to have every possible experience it, and move on. So, yes, you agreed to have cancer. Once you've been told you had cancer, you've had the experience of having cancer. At that point, you have free will and you can decide whether you want to continue to have it or not. So your choice is either you can have less on by completing that experience or be a moron and continue to have the experience. And so I found that to be very true in the work. We have these things happen that we agreed to have happen because as human beings, this is my opinion. So, if your listeners want to tell me I'm full of it, that's fine. But this is what I've learned over the years is that it's like we're sitting in heaven and God gives us a menu and says, all right, Rob, you've got these 437 things left to do that you've never experienced. Just pick 10. And so I picked 10 and I'm going to commit suicide and I'm going to have migraine headaches. I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And so that's my menu for that life. And the answer is once I've had the experience of it, I'm in charge. That's why I say a lot of this is about choice. If you decide that you've had the experience because you have had it, then you can be complete with it, be grateful for it, let it go, and then have another experience. Or you can continue having the experience because God loves you unconditionally and you have free will. Does that make any sense to you?
Totally. And I love the answer. And how
So let me give you an example.
are we good? No, please take your time.
Quick. 3 years ago, I was walking my dog on the beach in Santa Monica and I had a massive stroke. Knocked me down to the ground. My mom died of a stroke. I thought, this is it. I'm done. Hope somebody takes care of my dog. And somebody called 911. I went to UCLA Medical Center, which is world renowned. I was examined by the head neurologist for that world renowned place. He showed me the head x-rays and said, the left side, lower side of your brain, he said, it looks like somebody took it out. There's a big black hole there. And you, sir, better be prepared to have a long-term rehab in the hospital and a long-term rehab outside the hospital. And you better clear your calendar because this is going to be months. Do you have any questions? Now, Adam Schomer, who was the producer of the movie, was sitting in the room when this happened. So you can call him and ask him if this is true. The head of neurology said to me, do you have any questions? And I said, no, but I have something to say. I said, I appreciate your training and your skill and your diagnosis. However, I do not accept it. I will be released from this hospital by 5 o'clock today. This is like 9 o'clock in the morning. And you will release me not because you think I'm a smart ass, but because there's nothing wrong with me. And he said, oh, you must be one of those spiritual people. And I said, yeah, kind of.
Did he really say that?
And all day long. Yeah, he did. And he said, who's your doctor? And I said, I don't have one. And he goes, that figures. You do now. You're going to be seeing doctors for the next several months. And I said, I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not. I'm going to be out of here today and I'm going to be fine. And I said, because I'm a smartass, I'll bet you $5 that you come back before 5 o'clock and you dismiss me because you can't find anything wrong with me, even though you have this MRI that says half my brain's gone. At 4:45, he didn't come, but one of his assistants came in with a smirk on her face. And I said, oh, you're here to let me go, aren't you? And she goes, as a matter of fact, I am. I made the decision. I had the experience of having a stroke. I had it. I was done with it. I was ready to move on. I never had rehab. I walked out of that hospital that day and, okay. There's a part of the movie, Heal, that I mentioned to you that got cut. And it's on my website. I begged them for years and they finally gave me that piece so you can actually watch it. It's on my website. It's on the homepage. There's this woman named Sarah who had PLS, which is aggressive ALS. She could barely talk. She couldn't walk. She couldn't move her legs. And she came to me and I said, so what is it you really want? And she said, I just want to walk on the beach and stick my feet in the water. I want to do it by myself. and we were filming in Malibu. And I said, okay, we can do that. And she says in the movie, when she got the diagnosis, she said to the doctor, I do not accept your diagnosis. They filmed her walking to the beach. You'll see her do stuff in that clip on my website that you can't even do. I can't even do. She was flipping her leg back over her shoulder. She jumped off the table. And it wasn't trickery. It was real. I worked on her for a couple hours a day for a couple days. And of course, it got condensed down to 3 minutes. But she did not accept the diagnosis, just like I didn't. And I trusted and believed that I had power over my own body. I had free will. And by golly, I had better things to do than go to rehab.
Wow.
Okay. So people say, well, yeah, it's because it's you. And I'm like, it's not just me. I've seen it happen too many times. What do you think the difference between people that get a cancer diagnosis that live and don't have cancer anymore and then or die? They accept the diagnosis, they live the diagnosis, they claim it, my oncologist, my chemo, my cancer. And they follow the exact calendar that they're told that they're going to follow, and then they die. Or like me, they say, thank you. I've now had cancer. I'm grateful that I had that experience. It changed my life. It scared the crap out of me. I'm going to eat less fat, do more exercise, be nice to my children, and I'm going to be fine. I know that's a pretty crazy, strong statement, my friend, but that's my experience. And I've had my own experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the power of placebo, the power of the mind. If you had to distill it down into this, is it to how does one fully accept, believe, and surrender into that? I've had it. I'm done with it. Let's move on.
It's not easy. Okay. It's not easy. I taught this class. In fact, before I forget, I taught this master class about that exact subject that I will send to any one of your listeners who sends me an email and puts Australian podcast on it. So I know I'll send you that class for free. It's because, and this is what happened. About the first of this year, I got really irritated with God. I yell at God still, right? Come on. Because I'm like, why isn't everybody healing? I don't get it. You're giving it everything you got. I'm taking whatever you're giving me and I'm giving them everything I got. And we're both giving them everything we got. And some people don't heal. Why? And I got the answer. And the answer, again, all the answers are really simple. And I was like, oh my God. So the answer was, we have these affirmations that say, I am healed, I am grateful, 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 right? Or I am abundant, I am grateful, I am happy, I'm grateful. Whatever it is, I am something and I'm grateful. Keep it simple. And the answer was, it's what happens right after that. So I taught this class on first thought, second thought, and third thought. So what happens is people say, I am healed and I am grateful. And your brain, your subconscious says, no, you're not. You're not getting any better. You know what the doctor said, or, whatever. And then that's usually followed by a third thought that confirms the second thought. And that completely demolishes the first I am healed thought. And so we taught this class on how to train yourself to get rid of your second and third thoughts so that when you say, I am healed, I am grateful, you mean it. There's no distortion to it. There's no manipulation to it. There's no bullshit that comes behind it that says, no, you're not. And I'm serious. Anybody that's watching this podcast, go on my website, send me an email and put, you tell me, should we say Australian podcast on there?
Yeah.
And Australian podcast. And I will send you this course that tells you how to change that. It's all about thought. Thought's energy. I love Bruce Lipton because He's a scientist and he's proven it. And everybody goes, "You can't prove that, Rob." And I'm like, "Okay, read Bruce Lipton's book, Power of Belief.
Absolutely.
Look at the energy of a thought. Thought is energy. And as soon as you have the thought, it creates exactly what you thought. And you can say, "I'm healthy" all day long. But if you say underneath it, or that second little thought or third thought comes in and says, "No, you're not getting any better," or "This isn't working," or "How long is this going to take," or whatever it says, the first thought gets blown out of the water. Does that
Totally.
make sense? And it's like, okay, I get it. And a lot of this stuff's subconscious. And you got to understand that that guy's going to yak at you the rest of your life. But it's all about being grateful for what your subconscious says, because when you're grateful for it, it neutralizes it. And then you're grateful that it goes away. Instead of saying, "Shut up, go away, I don't like you," all that does is strengthen it. If you say, "Thank you for your information, I'm grateful for that information. You're teaching me you're giving me a great gift now. Now you can go because I've had that
Yeah.
experience."
Have you found when working with people that their thought process generally changes after them experiencing that divine connection, a healing, and then it, for me, I felt like it rewired me. Uh,
Well, it does. And it gives you that sense of faith and hope and
right.
belief that this can't, I mean, if it happened that fast, I mean, it's like you touch somebody and 2 minutes later, they're like, "Holy crap." Um, it's obviously not everybody. I mean, I got people that'll fight me all the way down to the end. But most people go, "I haven't felt this good. I can't even describe how I feel because it's not describable. My brain doesn't even know how to describe it. It feels so good." That's like taking a drug. And so people say, "Why do people keep coming back to you, Rob?" And I say, "Because they keep getting better. They keep getting more light. They keep getting clearer. They keep getting stronger. Everything's changing in their life. There's nothing wrong with them. It's like a booster shot every month or every year or whenever they come back because it just brings them into a higher state, a higher frequency, a higher vibration."
Do, do we all have these abilities that you have if we were to develop them? Or are you like the Tiger Woods of golf? Do you know what I mean? Just a phenomena that just happened.
You want my ego's answer or the truth? Um, we all have so this is what I say to people. I'm no different than you are. Obviously, I'm not superhuman. I'm not a guru. I don't walk on water, all that stuff. The only difference between me and you is I have 100% certainty that when I ask God for help for you or for me or for anybody, I have 100% faith and certainty and no second or third thoughts that it's going to happen. That's the only difference. I know it when I ask for it. It's like, "Do it now." And it's done. But that your job is to accept what was just done or not, or believe it or not, or resist it or not.
Wow.
But yeah, I think if we could all just get to this place, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it took me like 3 years after I started doing this work. I mean, I lost even more after that. I was penniless. I was begging for food. I lived in Sedona, and people would say, "That's a nice necklace you're wearing, Rob. That's really pretty." I'm like, "How much you give me for it?" And they'd say $10, and I'd give it to them, even though it cost me 1,000, and I'd go get dinner. I mean, so I went through it. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it was hard. It was difficult. I lost everything and sold everything just to do this work. And that's how committed I am. I have a passion like you do. And I'm here to make sure that people understand this isn't as hard as we've all made it to be. It's
Yeah.
not. It's about faith, it's about trust, it's about belief, and it's really about your thought. And it's important that you understand what's happening when you say something. It's like an electrical charge goes out into your body, your field, the universe, and the universe always says yes, no matter what, because the universe is
Yeah.
unconditional.
When I gotta ask you, just out of personal curiosity as well, when you're working like when you connect in, and clearly it just you just turn it on. And you've mentioned about angelic beings, seeing all the different beings as well coming in. Is that what happens? Are they actually guiding you? Is the energy moving you, or are you co-working with it?
They're not, what they're doing is holding space for that person and grounding the energy for that person and for me. I mean, think about it for a second. If you connected with God, the divine, whoever that is, that's a massive amount of frequency and vibration.
Yeah.
It's massive. I mean, you should see me when I'm working. I look like I'm a crazy person. But and and so one person alone can't handle it. I get it direct, but then I like to describe it like I'm the hub of a wheel, and it's going out from me in all directions to all people. And so if I'm doing 1,000 people or 2,000 people in a room or 10 people, it's 10 or 2,000 very distinct and separate energy paths that are going to each person. Because again, like I said at the beginning, we're all unique, right? We're all different. Your different needs and soul and path, all different than mine and everybody's. And so I've got to be able to take all this energy down, and then it goes out in strands, or however you want to say it. And so there has to be a lot, doesn't have to be, but I think I'd explode if there wasn't. There are a lot of spiritual beings, first of all, that the masters, some masters that I work with, but also your lineage, because every time I work on somebody, your lineage is literally walking through the circle of energy that I'm working with you in, because they're getting healed as well. Because what I know is, if I don't go back, when I say I don't mean me, Rob, I say us, right? I'm not taking credit for this. But if we don't go back to your great, 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 great grandmother that had liver disease, and because she was an alcoholic and it kept getting passed down, passed down, passed down, if we don't go back there and heal her first, we're not going to clear it with you. And, you've heard the stories. Everybody in my family has breast cancer. Every man in my family has had a heart attack. Well, it's because we didn't let go of it. We became a moron instead of a lesson, and we passed it forward. And every time we pass it forward, it gets a little stronger. And then the real thing is, if you believe that you're the man in the family, and you're the man, and you're 42, and every man in your family's had a heart attack by the time they're 45, guess what? So we need to go back and clear that heart attack, so that line of energy goes away from you, and then you don't pass it down to your kids, right? And we need to go back to all of your past lives and find the stuff you didn't complete, so you don't keep rolling that forward. So it's not that we're just working on your left
I was going to
shoulder.
say, yeah.
We're working on all of your lifetimes, all of your lineage. And all of that radiates out into the universe. I mean, so the amount of energy that it takes to do that is insane. And it takes a lot. It takes, a village, as they say. So there's all these beings, your lineage, your guides, your angels, your masters, your teachers, and all the beings that work with me to ground the energy, because there's so much of it. And it's there for everybody. And like I said a long time ago, it's your choice. Do you want it or not? Do you want to negotiate or
Yeah,
not?
it's almost, you draw a line in the sand, make a decision, and say I'm all in, and then bring it on. Yeah,
Bring it. And know that in bringing it, it's probably not going to feel good, because you're going to have to detox all this crap you've been holding on to for lifetimes. And you're going to hate me, you're going to yell at me, and I'm overemphasizing, right? But people get upset after they work with me, and I'm like, why are you upset? You're puking out all this stuff that's killing you. Don't be mad at me. Be grateful at your body for letting it go. But it's you know it's not like somebody walks in front of me and I go, bless you, my son, and you're fine.
yeah,
This is work. That's why they call it work. And it's not easy work. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for you. But together, we can create anything you want. And it's not just, people like, how many sessions do I need? And I'm like, a lot. And they're like, why? And I'm like, duh, we're working on every past life, your lineage, your future lives, blah, 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 blah. You think we can do that in one? If we did it in one, you'd explode and you'd be
Yeah.
gone.
No,
So
it's absolutely. And I kind of came to the conclusion that there's always work to be done, right? And you just keep leaning in it.
I'm doing, I've been doing this for 20 plus years every day. And you think I'm not still doing work? People are like, oh, you must just sit around. I'm like, yeah, right. I'm doing this too. I fight with my wife. I get mad at stuff. I get irritated. I tell people to fuck off. I mean, it's like I'm no different than you are.
I
I'm
get it.
telling you, except that I have certainty in my faith and my trust and my belief. And I have one thought, not several. I have one. And it stops there. And that's the secret. Once you learn how to do that, everything changes.
Do you feel like this is a time in history where we are taking on, like, healing all the ancestral traumas, that there's a shift happening? Because that's what I feel like I've taken on, to be honest with you, that I've been healing a lot for a long time, but I've really taken on that role and that challenge. And for my lineage to come, I've just had two children, and I'm very conscious of it all.
I have said for years to people that you and I, and all the people that are on the planet now, have come, not all of us, but most of us, light beings like we are, have come to clear the karma for not only ourselves, but for our lineage. In order to do that, we took a lot of shit on. And it hasn't been easy. And a lot of people have left the planet. But those of us who understand that we're doing this for a much greater purpose, for the world, for the people, for our family, for ourselves, that's what's going on. And the other thing I say is that it's really difficult right now because we've been putting this stuff off. We've been pushing it away for years, and God's not going to sit around anymore and just let us get away with this stuff. We've screwed up the planet, we've screwed up the economy, we've screwed up. There's all this lying going on. I mean, it's just not nice. And so I'm saying God's putting the screws to us, bringing everything to the surface so we see how bad it is, so we get to make the choice: are we going to change it or are we going to go down with it? And I think this energy is really motivational. I look at it as an opportunity, as motivation, as powerful energy that we can actually tap into and use to change everything. It's not trying to kill us or make us suffer or make us worse. It's like plugging into an energy drink that's really powerful, that can give you this power to change something. And you can see how things are starting to change, right? And it's not pretty, but the truth is being exposed, and it's getting better. We still got a lot of work to do, but people are like, why is it so bad? And I'm like, because we've been so bad. And it has to be so bad to push us into letting go of this stuff that we've gotten accustomed to, we've gotten away
Totally.
with. And the world's not going to end. It's not going to blow up. God's not going to come down and set us all on fire. We're just being given a really good dose of energy to change things. And again, it's our choice. Are we going to do anything about it or not?
Absolutely. It was a question. It was a mantra I always used to say to myself: all I ever want to know is the truth. And I used to. That was it.
Me too.
It truly was. And I continuously still lean into that, because I feel if we're in our authentic selves, our truthful selves, and we're our words, our deeds, our actions are all coming from that place, then it'd be a different world, ultimately, at the end of the day.
And people, I say, be powerful. And people say, what does that mean? And I say, powerful is being in your truth. Powerful is being in your heart and being in your truth. That's power, because you can't argue with that. It's really hard to argue with truth and love, unconditional. You can't argue. And so that's being in your power. Step into your heart, step into your truth, step into your power. It's not about carrying a machine gun. It's about being in your truth, man.
Absolutely. A couple of last questions as we wrap up the podcast, Rob. One is, how do you deal with the amount of energy? Do you have to recover after it? Is your nervous system fried, or is it adapted well?
You know, what I've noticed is over the last couple of years, the amount of energy that's being given to me has massively increased. And so, because there's so much going on, and so it's becoming, I used to work like 7 days a week, and now I work like, when I say work, I mean like I'm on a Zoom or in a group. I work 24 hours a day because I'm always working on people. But I've needed to, kind of trim back my in-person stuff because it's so intense. I'm 76 now, and it's like I didn't think I'd be doing this. I thought I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere, and I wouldn't change a thing. But you know, my my body's in remarkable shape for what I do in my age, but it takes a toll, and I know how to recover. It takes a
Yeah.
day maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Yeah, fantastic. Last question for you then. With everything we've covered on the podcast today, and we've covered a lot of ground actually, is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
I would say that there's nothing that's not possible. Everything is possible. Everything. And I say that with certainty and authority because I've seen everything, like you asked me about, right? I've seen everything from possessions to people in hospice. I've seen everything. And there isn't anything I've seen that does not have the possibility of changing in a moment if you choose and you have faith. And so to look at what's happening right now is the greatest opportunity ever on the face of this earth. And you chose to come here to be part of this great party. And so instead of bitching about it, join the party and do something about it by being in your truth, being in your heart, being positive, and especially be grateful. And the thing about gratitude, I always say, is we humans are selectively grateful. We're grateful for some stuff and we're not grateful for other stuff. And I think that's true for everybody. And if you look at your life, I mean, I look at my life, and like I've told you, I've been grateful for some of the worst things that from the surface looked like they were horrible. But I'm grateful because I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't had that experience. And so if you're grateful for everything, even if you can I give you a quick
Please.
example real quick? Okay, we were in Boston last weekend, and a lady, we were talking about gratitude, and this woman said to me, she goes, I said, you should be grateful if you have a flat tire, or you stub your toe, or you miss your plane, you're late for a meeting, because you don't know what was on the other side of that. You have no way of knowing. And she started laughing, and she said, you know what? Yesterday, I was on a way to a meeting, and I had a flat tire. And I got really mad, and I had to find a place to fix my tire, and they said it was going to be an hour. So I was sitting there fuming for an hour, and I looked on my phone, and there was an email from you saying an opening just occurred in Boston. If you want it, respond now. And she said, I would never have, I mean, this sounds about like it's about me, but it's not. She said, I never would have seen that email that got me into this session had I not had a flat tire. I said, exactly. You don't know what's on the other side of something that you're not grateful for. So be grateful for everything, everything. And when you start doing that, everything changes. Don't be selectively grateful, be all in grateful, right? And send me an email that says Australian podcast on it, and I'll send you this really amazing masterclass on first, second, and third thoughts that will show you how you're sabotaging yourself,
Fantastic.
why the I am statements don't work the
Yeah,
way you
I,
think they
I love
should.
it. I'll send you one myself, mate. I wouldn't mind having a look at that. That sounds great.
No, I don't know about you. I might not give it.
And I want to say I'm very grateful for this podcast today and this opportunity to spend some time with you. I that,
Yeah, me too,
that was a
my new
beautiful
friend.
conversation, and wow, yeah, very inspiring. Thank you so much, Rob. And the links will be in the show notes for everyone. Your links to your website and everything else, easily accessible. And yeah, threatening to come to Australia in 2025, maybe. Maybe we can make it happen.
I'm all in, man. You tell me when and where, and I will show up.
Rob, thank you, my man. Thank you so much.